A lot of clouds today, and there is a rain warning in effect. I actually feel some drizzles in some spots anyways. And what did I read today? Apparently there was a drone that crashed into an emergency helicopter helping with the big floods in Texas currently. There was this posting here. It says from the city of Kerrville, Texas. It says, please ground your drones until current flood search and rescue operations are complete. This afternoon, a private drone illegally operating in restricted airspace collided with a helicopter involved in emergency operations in Kerr County. The helicopter was forced to make an emergency landing, and a critical piece of response equipment is now out of service until further notice. This was entirely preventable. Temporary flight restrictions are not suggestions. They are federal airspace rules designed to protect lives during emergency situations. When you fly a drone in restricted areas, you're not just breaking the law, you're putting first responders, emergency crews, and the public at serious risk. So it makes you wonder what the guy was doing. Was it, for example, someone just flying to capture footage? Was there no one in the area offering aid, and so the person flew the drone looking, I guess, for people? I don't think that's the case, obviously, if this thing crashed into the helicopter. Some information about these floods. Obviously, there were a lot of people who lost their lives and they're missing. It says the floods were apparently triggered by extreme rainfall with 6 to 15 inches falling in a few hours on July 4th, 2025. So right on their celebration day. And it says including up to 10 inches in Kerr County overnight. Some areas saw a month's worth of rains in hours. Again, it seems like there were a lot of people on site trying to help. I know there has been stories of natural disasters in the US where it seemed like no one was getting help. This doesn't seem to be the case, so it's not a good idea to be flying around your personal drone. Although it does make you think too, just in general, because obviously this is a sudden incident, and with all those other videos you saw where in China there were various floods and people were using their large drones to essentially fly people out. How would you react in that sense if someone actually did that in this particular area in the exact type of scenario where they saved a life? Would you actually praise people for doing that if they see someone in distress? Or would you say the same thing like in that regards in general, saying it's too dangerous and so forth, it's illegal, so you shouldn't do it? It makes me think too, in these situations, if people want to help, and as well just for general notifications, is there a reason why officials don't have, for example, a way for people to volunteer if they want to help, like in this case with their drone? Because that way they could have some kind of communication or direct knowledge where their operations are so they don't interfere, or at the same time they could be more aware of where they could potentially help if they see, let's just say, somebody's stranded, like in those other videos again where they flew people out of those areas. Wouldn't it be better to have that kind of coordination? Because for the average person, I would say anyways, it's not very straightforward in terms of drone regulations and all that. The traffic management is pretty horrible just for an average person to find out. I mean, even here, let's pretend someone's flying a micro drone and they're fine. Do you really expect them to look up, for example, NOTAMs and so forth? There has to be something a little bit more clear, in my opinion. You still obviously shouldn't fly it if you see there's emergency vehicles and stuff like that. Just like, let's just say in the road, if there's cars and so forth, there's police vehicles everywhere. I don't think you should drive right through that area as an example. How about this in terms of drones meant more for war and so forth, where one of them apparently crashed due to some kind of interference. That's what it seems like. This one says Russia Altius Drone crashes due to unknown electric warfare measures. The promising Russian heavy strike drone Altius crashed as a result of electronic warfare measures. This was reported by a Russian media outlet citing the Ural Civil Aviation Plant. It was noted that during the flight, communications with the drone was jammed by an unidentified electronic warfare device which disrupted satellite navigation. After losing communication, the drone switched to an inertial navigation system and attempted to land. The Altius was conducting a test flight over the Kazan region of the Russian Federation and, as a result of losing control, crashed into a private house in the Kazanka 3 gardening community. Well, that was unfortunate. It says the Altius U was developed by the Semenov Design Bureau in Kazan since 2011. Flight tests began in 2016 and in 2018. The project was transferred to the Ural Civil Aviation Plant in Tatarstan. So many different obstacles that could happen when you're flying a drone in these cases, especially in war situations, huh? And in terms of war, this is kind of interesting. How about this, where apparently there was something going on with the Canadian Armed Forces here. This one says, Canadian soldiers charged in alleged anti-government terror plot. Active members of the Canadian Armed Forces are among 4 people facing terrorism charges in Quebec for allegedly plotting an anti-government militia. At least 3 of the 4 are accused of taking concrete action to facilitate terrorist activity, including a plot to forcibly take possession of land in the Quebec City area, according to the RCMP. The alleged target was not specified, but it was not a government facility or a political landmark. The RCMP told National Post it was described more as a land that could be used to build their group or used as a base to start a new society. And according to this, apparently this all started during things like the COVID pandemic shutdowns and all that. So there was a lot of people who didn't agree with the government's direction, and I guess it kept building up. And look at all the weapons that they apparently confiscated too. Is there a lot of dissent, for example, with even people in the armed forces and the government? I know here anyways, apparently we have a huge shortage when it comes to members in the armed forces as well. So it makes you wonder what is going on overall, huh? Yeah, here comes the rain. You gotta be prepared. All right, see you guys later.